so that they be less judgmental, that they can extend the care of those affected by HIV. It's easy to blame the victims. The whole point of this was to support the victims and to see them all as children of God's love. That's just a nice little picture of work in PNG and one of the Anglican priests there. So not only, I think it's kind of interesting, but not only does the Anglican Board of Mission work in PNG, it also works in Vanuatu, and for some odd reason I don't understand, it's working in a province in China, Yunnan province in China, in AIDS education and support. I don't know why. I can't figure it out, but that's where it is. So our work in Australia has focused on writing reports, understanding the extent of the pandemic, educating clergy and parishes, supporting local people, taking local initiatives, trying to be, in that sense, gay-friendly to people who want to be part of congregations, offering local support and not seeing HIV positive people as problems, but as people who are part of congregations, and that, I must say, is largely the way it happens. So, trying to understand what our response has been in Australia and in Melbourne, I went looking at the HIV periodic survey of the AIDS Federation of the Australian Federation of AIDS Organisations, and Carol's already given us some insights into that, so I'm not sure that my comments here are particularly helpful, except that we, as the Anglican Church, has quite a work going on in Melbourne and in Sydney and other places like that with cold communities. So we have something like 50 congregations of cold communities worshipping their own language on Sunday mornings, apart from the professional Chinese. So we've got professional Chinese congregations out in Doncaster and in the wealthier parts of Melbourne, but we have Dinka and Nua and Karen and all sorts of, lists go on and on of congregations meeting every Sunday and being communities. And the question about HIV and their diagnosis and support of these people is, as it is in much of the community, I think it's a fairly silent conversation. People are coming to Australia, they're being diagnosed with HIV late. If they're coming from sub-Saharan Africa, I picked up also, as Carol has already shown us in the statistics, that more of them are women and more of them are coming with the diagnosis already. So they're coming from places like Kenya, Uganda and South Sudan, and they're coming with HIV infections already. So we've identified some years ago, 2009, in a paper by Irene Donahue-Klein, that HIV/AIDS was a potential issue amongst Anglican cold congregations, particularly those of African and Asian origin, and you can see that in Carol's statistics that that's hardly a surprise, but we worked it out. And have we done anything about it? I've got to largely say that we haven't. I've been looking for the initiatives, I've been talking to people all around, and I've yet to discover too much that we're actually initiating. But it's been our practice to cooperate with people, with organisations such as this organisation, to create conversations, and certainly I'll be interested to see where this conversation goes today. Maybe that's as much as I want to say right now. Thank you.
Thank you, Stephen. I know later on during our interactive session we are going to have, kind of discuss what are the partnership opportunities do we have, what could we do as a service sector and faith or religious leaders to kind of engage and find out how, do we work together to promote or to deal with, address HIV issues in multicultural and refugee communities. So in the meantime, I want to ask if there's anyone who has a question for Stephen. Yes, Jane.
Oh, I just wondered what you put it down to, that there haven't really been any initiatives locally since that report in 2009.
I've got to say, I suspect it's about, well, in fact, I'm sure that it's about establishing congregations and avoiding the hard questions. So in that sense, it's still about stigma and denial and fear. Even though we wouldn't want to say that it's about stigma and denial and fear, and now I've said it, I'm kind of on the public record, which is probably, the Archbishop will give me a hit for that. But in reality, we've been busy doing other things, and we haven't seen it as a priority, whereas in places like PNG, Vanuatu even, and certainly Sub-Saharan Africa, it kind of, it's so much an issue, particularly amongst women and, orphan children and things like that. So, a lot of those communities don't know what to do with HIV diagnoses, and we as a church haven't been pushing them to consider what the implication of diagnosis is, or testing and diagnosis. So sorry for being a bit honest, Phil.